to finally wrap up our season prediction series. A little bit late. We're 1 week into the season at this point, but don't forget that. Forget week 1 happened. It didn't happen in this world. It didn't happen.
Shut up. It did.
Or maybe it did because our
Non-existent.
predictions are flawless.
They are.
Our predictions are flawless, so it doesn't even
We
matter.
we should have checked how our original predictions did compared to like our new week 1 predictions. That would have been a good idea. If I still had mine, that would have been a great idea.
That would have been.
Yeah.
That would have been. But it's okay. It's okay. These predictions are still everything we say. Take 100%
Take
seriously.
it to the bank.
Don't look at how we did last week in our week 1 predictions, because that might ruin our credibility. But anyways, we are here with our playoff predictions. This is the end of our kind of months-long series we've done. We predicted every game for every NFL team leading into the season. Yeah. And now that's culminated in the playoffs. We've got all the games here. We've picked all of them. This is how the playoffs will go. So sit back and stay tuned. First up, we got let's do the AFC first. I think that might be more interesting. Simon, what are your AFC wildcard matchups?
I have, at the top of things, my number 2 Texans taking on the number 7 Steelers. Number 3 Ravens taking on number 6 Bengals. And number 4 Chiefs taking on the number 5 Jags. Those are my matchups in the AFC. What are yours?
On my side, I have, I wish I had ordered this better. I have the number 2 Texans taking on the number 7 Jaguars. I have the number 3 Chiefs taking on the number 6 Colts. And then I have the number 4 Dolphins taking on the number 5 Ravens.
Oh, so we actually have fairly different wild card matchups, which is fun.
It's the AFC, I think, can go either way. So,
yeah, I think we should
why don't we
somewhat run through it quick. At least the wild card.
Yeah.
At least the wild card.
Let's start on your end, because, yeah.
Sure. Do you want me to just go through all 3? Do all 3?
And I can yell at you if you say something Yeah, I'll yell at you if you say something I don't like. But
sure. Let's go with that. Okay. So at the top of mine, obviously Texans versus Steelers. I have an upset Steelers. I'm fucking with you. It's the Texans. The Texans are winning. There's no way in hell if these teams matched up in the playoffs. The Steelers might be good enough to get there. I think we always talk about Tomlin gets his winning record every year. It might be enough to squeeze him in. But they're not winning. They're not winning against the Texans in a game like this. So that's a fairly obvious one. I almost feel like I don't need to explain it. If the Texans do well enough in the regular season to land at that number 2 spot, they are not going to lose to the Steelers, let alone lose it all in the wild card, I think. But up next, number 3 Ravens, number 6 Bengals. Little tough, but remember that Joe Burrow can't lift up a water bottle. He ain't got no wrist no more. I'd like to see you try and throw a football without a wrist. I'm just going to pretend that's my actual reason behind this. I have the Ravens. I'm taking them. I wasn't necessarily impressed by their week 1 performance, but then again, we did pick these at this point 2 months ago. So
2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, so it doesn't that's not necessarily a huge part of this decision. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they'll figure out their O-line and all those issues by the time it gets here. And they were playing the Chiefs, who have a very tough D-line. Playing Chris Jones is never easy.
Yep.
So
they were a toe away. That
was an awesome game. Isaiah Likely absolutely fucked me in fantasy because Mark Andrews did nothing. But yeah, no, that was a fun game to watch. I think with their issues, if they can figure out O-line, they're pretty close to as good as you can get. So I think that saying they'd go further than the wild card should not be a shocker. And then lastly, number 4 Chiefs, number 5 Jags. Honestly, I don't even feel like I necessarily have to defend this one that hard. They've won the last 2. If the Chiefs go out in the wild card, I feel like people would go nuts. I think it would be a wild thing if it happened. And I think so. And honestly, I mean, even just bringing week 1 into things, the Jags weren't necessarily anything crazy in that Dolphins-Jags game. I was kind of tuning in and out of that one at that point. That was like nap time for me. But I still think, I don't know, they didn't impress me that much. I don't feel that it's not controversial, but I don't feel like I'm that insane for saying, yeah, no, it's kind of almost a pushover. Like the Chiefs are beating the Jags, even if it's a 4v5.
Yeah, and I mean, I think with that game, I think the Bengals Ravens game is probably the most interesting game we have there. Because I think the other two are pretty much like the Steelers will, if they get into the playoffs at all, which I don't think they will. They'll very much be a pushover. It'll be like last year where they kind of get in as a formality, and everybody else in the AFC just chokes, and they're consistent.
That's basically what I have
but they can't
happening here from memory. What
it happened last year, so it's not.
I had them going 9
probably
and 8.
9-8.
Yeah, I had them going 9 and 8. So there you go.
Yeah, so they're holding up against higher competition would definitely be a tall task. Same thing with the Jags. I mean, they had a better team a couple of years ago when they lost to the Chiefs in the divisional round, and I don't think they're gonna beat that performance. Bengals Ravens is interesting. I may not agree with that outcome, but I'll get to that later when we get to my own picks.
Okay.
In fact, maybe that's a good transition. I can flip back over. Because yeah. I think I have it's. I think my matchups are a little bit more interesting, but yeah, there's definitely still some kind of easy ones here. I have Jags at Texans, divisional matchup, which makes this interesting, but yeah, I don't think they're on the same level. I think this would go very similarly to a Jags Chiefs game. Texans have this one pretty handily at home. Chiefs Colts might be interesting, but I think the Colts are too young and inexperienced, and like you said, the Chiefs losing in the wild card would be like probably the biggest shocker in the playoffs in the last few years. Chiefs at Arrowhead, I'm not going to bet against them. Ravens at Dolphins, I think, is the interesting one that I have. I have a lot more faith in the Dolphins than I think a lot of people do this year. I think if they are able to win the division like I have them doing here, and they get the benefit of a home game, that benefits them a lot. I think environment, as we saw last year, when you put them in the cold in Arrowhead, they couldn't do anything. But I think if you put them in Miami, where it's still going to be warm in December and January, like they're going to be fine in a playoff game. They're going to be able to run their full offense. And while I think the Ravens are a good team, I do think they're a lot worse than they were a year ago, both on defense and on the O-line. That's why I see the Dolphins taking this one. That one will be a close game, though.
Ravens going out in the first round is interesting. I feel like that. I mean, then again, I have Bengals going out in the first round, which I'm sure to some people is also controversial. So I feel like I guess we both have some shocker ones, but yeah. Ravens Dolphins is tough. That's a tough game. That's two teams that absolutely should get past.
There's a lot of good teams in the AFC.
Oh yeah.
Like there's gonna be one or two that you think could make it further than the wild card that just don't.
Yeah. No, I don't think I don't disagree with you at all on that one. I think I don't know. I'm not gonna get mad at it. It's a toss up for me, Dolphins and Ravens. I think if it were me, I think I'd take Ravens. But it's close. It's really close. I think it's, and that's assuming, like I said, I was not impressed by the Ravens O-line. I think that's scary. But if they can figure that out, I think they have all the other pieces. That in comparison, that feels like such a small hold a patch, and I know that's saying a lot because O-line is important. But if they can figure that out, then they've got something. But do you want to move on here to the? Are we? Let's go other wild card. Yeah, I don't. Unless you want to run down the AFC.
Yep, let's go NFC.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I figured.
Nope.
Yeah.
Let's go NFC.
Okay.
Yep. Who do you have in your match?
So, I have at the top number 2 49ers taking on the number 7 Bears. As a reminder, the Lions are my I don't know if you said on the AFC who your team going past is.
Oh, yeah. My number 1 seed is the Bengals, and yours is the Jets, right?
Yes, mine is the Jets, which isn't looking good right now, but that's okay. But yep, I have number 2 49ers, number 7 Bears. Lions are my number 1, but that's my first matchup. My second matchup are the number 3 Eagles versus the number 6 Seahawks. And then I have the number 4 Falcons versus the number 5 Packers.
And I think my NFC bracket kind of got messed up here because I remember for certain my number 1 seed was the Lions. I went back in the website today and it said I'd put it as the Niners. That's not true. I would never do that. That's heresy. So I'm putting it back to what I remember it being. Um, so I have Lions as the number 1 seed. I have the number 7 Seahawks going into San Francisco against the Niners, just like they did 2 years ago. We'll see how biased I get there. We have the number 6 Rams going into Philly to play the Eagles, and then I have the exact same matchup you do. I have the Packers going in to face the Falcons in Atlanta.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, they're all interesting series. Do you want me to go first again and just run through these quick?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Run through
I
them.
feel even more confident about this first one after what we saw in week 1 with the 49ers without CMC looking absolutely incredible. They look like a flawless football team out there. And playing an inexperienced Bears and Caleb Williams, I don't even think he threw over 50% in that first game. Not to say he won't turn it around. I obviously still have them making the playoffs, but having them, if I were to come in here and say, I think this is going to be a close game, I feel like that would be controversial. Saying that the 49ers win shouldn't be anything nuts. I think from what I feel like the 49ers are going to do this year, if they go out in the wild card, it's the same thing as the Chiefs. If they go out in the wild card, that would be insane. So, yep,
and
I think 49ers.
I think the Jags team would be a lot better than the Bears team at this point.
Yeah.
Even with what we saw last week. Like, the Jags had the lead against Miami for a large portion of that game. The Bears very much, even though they won that game against the Titans, a lot lesser competition, a lot more work.
Yeah.
No offensive touchdowns.
What is a win against the Titans really worth? How much do you actually like that 1-0? Like, that's not.
Will Levis basically had to like gift wrap them a pick 6 at the end of the game.
That photo of him dropping to his knees. I thought I had like my fantasy football team name for the year already figured out, and then I saw that photo and instantly knew what I had to do. So I photoshopped him in a Walmart parking lot, and now my name is Out of Mayo, which I'm proud of. I think that's great.
That's pretty good.
Will Levis, I absolutely love that. I love that for him. That is going to be the most memed photo ever now. It's so good. I think the low quality ones are way better than the high quality, but still. Anyway, the Titans will not be here come playoffs, so we don't need to talk about them. But,
no.
Yeah. Number 3 Eagles versus number 6 Seahawks. Now this is where it gets spicy. Caleb, you were talking about your homer pick. This is my arguable homer pick. I'm gonna take the Seahawks here. I don't really have a reason. It's kind of a hard one to defend, honestly, especially after what we saw from the Eagles. Saquon looked really good in that first week, obviously with that 3 touchdown performance. I don't know. Yeah, okay, sure. Caleb, do you wanna come in to try and defend my pick for me?
I can defend it. Don't worry, I can defend it. So, Seahawks, Eagles. I mean, yes, the Eagles looked a lot better in Brazil. The Saquon Barkley is scary, but from what we saw with Mike McDonald's defense against the Broncos in Week 1, it pretty much confirmed everything that I believed that this defense could be. I know it's Week 1, but I think both the Seahawks and Mike McDonald have struggled historically Week 1. So even to get off this kind of start is fantastic. The Broncos were completely suffocated. The Seahawks are actually making tackles, which is a huge reason they were kind of bad last year. So to see that fixed is amazing. They adjusted at halftime incredibly well, and this offense is only going to get better. As long as their offensive line doesn't kill them halfway through the year, then I think they can absolutely beat the Eagles. They beat the Eagles with a worse team last year, so I could absolutely see it happening again. The Seahawks kind of own the Eagles as of recently anyways. I don't think they've beaten the Eagles in like 6 or 7 years. I don't think the Eagles have beaten the Seahawks in like 6 or 7 years or something.
And even if you want to put it in that frame, that's a fair point. I still feel like this is an upset. I'm framing this like it'll be an upset. People are going to watch this game, and
I still think it's an upset.
Yeah, it's still... People are going to watch... If this happened, people would watch this and go, what the fuck just happened? Why did Like, this would... I'm not saying I would predict a firing of Sirianni, but I feel like people would be talking about it after a wild card loss here.
I would.
Yeah,
I think
you think
Sirianni
so?
would get fired if they
For a wild card loss?
They already talked about firing. They lost in the wild card last year. I think if they do it again, they fire him. He's already been on the hot seat.
Yeah,
like there were
that's
talks
fair.
of firing him this season.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But yeah, no, I think it would be an upset. But I mean, I don't think it's like out of nowhere. This isn't like the Bears beating the Niners or something crazy. like that.
No, and I
this is
wasn't
perfectly
saying
reasonable.
that.
I think it'll be a close game either way.
Yeah, they're both playoff teams. In this, they are both playoff teams.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. It's not the the Bears aren't a playoff team. They're here as the number 7. They're here because Caleb Williams was able to will them to this in my magical imaginary world. I feel like the Seahawks at the number 6 Seahawks and the number 7 Bears are not comparable. Like the Bears are, who's my number? Or I don't know, maybe both the Bears and Steelers. Both my number 7s are significantly worse than everybody else. But maybe that should be expected.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've ran on for a while, so I'll run through this last pick here. I have number 4 Falcons versus number 5 Packers. I'm taking the Packers. I think this one's actually really close. I'm still very much on the wagon for the Falcons. I think they're going to be really good this year. And this is technically, if you're just looking at obviously 4v5 is very close, but it is a upset in that sense. Like they're going to Atlanta and winning on the road. I don't think it's that crazy. I think this is the type of game where it's kind of a coin flip. At least to me. I know that you're not going to look at it like that. I think it's kind of a coin flip. In my imaginary world, I think the Falcons are very good. In this, for the Falcons to end up in the spot I have them in this standing, I have everything working out. Bijan has a terrific year. Drake London, 1,000 yards. Like Kirk Cousins just instantly excels. So this is like Falcons workout versus the Packers, and I'm gonna give it to the Packers, but I think it's close.
I don't think that matchup here. I can transition this into my own predictions because I also have this same game, and I also have the Packers winning. I don't think it'll be close. Like I don't know. I know I did kind of make a shitty prediction in terms of saying the Packers would blow the doors off the Eagles, and maybe I should have kind of
will say
come out that strongly.
I was pretty proud of my Raiders Chargers pick. Because I'm just gonna say it now. That video didn't do too good, which sucks. But if the Raiders had won, and that ended up being one of the ones that got boosted to 1,000 viewers, I was fucked. I would have been so fucked. There would have been
Raiders fans too.
There would have been a horse head in my bed. I would have been done. So it was funny when the Raiders. I think the Raiders scored they definitely had a lead at one point, and I was like, oh no, this is not gonna be good. But
we know the Raiders aren't gonna win a football game this year.
Yeah,
I'm kidding, Raiders fans. I'm kidding. You'll win one. Anyways, so. Packers Falcons. I don't think it'll be close. I think that in this case the Falcons kind of worried me a lot in terms of how they played against the Steelers. I did predict that, but I don't know. It scares me a lot. I think Jordan Love, as we saw last year, as long as he's healthy by this point, which it looks like he will be, obviously devastating injury, but
believe it's
at this point it looks like he'll be healthy.
Yeah, I believe it's 3 to 4.
So he should be. He'll be fine by this point. And yeah, we saw last year he turned it on in the playoffs, and same thing should happen here. I don't view this as an upset at all. I think this is one of the matchups where most people will be picking the Packers to win, and that's what I have them doing. In terms of my other matchups,
do you have the Falcons or Packers? Or no, never mind. Yeah, because Falcons are divisional, so they're 4 for you as well.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Never mind.
My other matchup is the number 3 Eagles taking on the number 6 Rams, and I have the Eagles in this one. I think this would be a very close game. I think this would be a very good game. I worry a little bit about health with the Rams at this point in the year. Puka Nakua is already on IR. 4 of their 5 offensive line starters are already hurt. So things aren't looking great for them right now. Who knows by the end of the season, hopefully people get healthy, but that scares me a little bit. And I do agree with what you said with the Eagles. Like, I do think that showing in Brazil kind of showed a lot for us, and I think their new and improved roster has done a lot to kind of quell my doubts, especially in that first game where they come out against a quality opponent and beat them. I have a lot more faith in them now. So picking them to win a wild card game at home doesn't seem too preposterous. The last game that might hurt my soul a little bit. Whoever thought that you would be higher on the Seahawks in this hypothetical playoff than I would. This is just a really tough draw for the Seahawks. I kind of have we're 1-0 right now, so as of this moment, my hype is at unexplainable levels of high.
Yeah.
So I think they're going 17-0 and winning the Super Bowl. However, to kind of quell my expectations a bit and look at it a bit more realistically, I had them at number 7 in this prediction, and to go in to San Francisco and win, that would be pretty crazy. It's not on the levels of, I think, Bears-Niners. I could see it a little bit more, especially as a division rivalry, but we saw what happened with it 2 years ago, where that game, it had its moments, but it never really was close. I think this game will be closer. I think Mike McDonald provides that extra boost. But this will more be a game where, I don't know, you kind of look at it and say, like, oh, the Seahawks put up a good fight. Like, there's things to look forward to next year if they make some good drafts. If they draft well, if they get some good players in free agency, if they retain all their coaches, all that. But no, I think the Niners win, but I think it might be closer than people expect.
Yeah. I actually don't. You know what's funny? When I saw you had 49ers versus Seahawks, I thought we'd be disagreeing on a lot as for your take there, but I don't really disagree with any of that. I think that's exactly what probably would end up happening. I actually feel like that game would probably be the most, because I look at my side, I have 49ers Bears. People are going to look at that game and go, oh, okay, so 49ers in the divisional, right? Like, okay, so put the whole house on the 49ers. Like, it's what are we doing here? We can skip a week. Nobody's watching that game. You know what I mean? Like, it's not debatable. But at Seahawks 49ers, I'd sit here going like, yeah, I feel like I know what the outcome's going to be, but I'm going to watch the shit out of that game because it's going to be good. It's going to be two divisional rivals playing their asses off, and you know the Seahawks are going into that week thinking that they want to absolutely beat the brakes off of a 49ers team that is significantly better than them, and they know it. But that doesn't mean that they can't go into San Francisco and put up one hell of a show and potentially run away with it. I agree with you. I don't think they would, but it would be a good game. It would be a very high effort game for the Seahawks. They're playing for a lot, but yeah, I don't disagree with that. 49ers is a lot tougher draw than the Eagles. So yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. Now, finally, 25 minutes into it, let's do divisional. Remember that thing I said about not taking too long on the wild card?
That's okay.
We killed it. We killed it. All right.
That's the most we've already picked the majority of the games, probably. I think that's how it works.
Maybe? I don't know.
Kind of. Almost.
Almost. Oh yeah, no, around. It's around the halfway point. So yeah, that's not bad. Yeah. Okay.
No, we're doing good.
AFC
divisional round.
We'll go
AFC
back across. AFC divisional. I have number 1 Jets versus number 4 Chiefs, and then number 2 Texans versus number 3 Ravens. What do you have?
Oh yeah, right. I have to say what I have.
Yeah.
I was just cringing at the fact that the Jets are the number 1 seed.
I
have my number 1 Bengals versus number 4 Dolphins, number 2 Texans versus number 3 Chiefs.
Okay. So immediately here, you said you were cringing at the Jets getting this far and being number 1. Don't worry, it doesn't go any further. Because obviously, the funny thing is, when you're number one, I think you go into this game going, awesome. I'm going to be playing the worst out of all the wild card winners. It really sucks for them that that's the Chiefs. It really sucks that. I mean, Texans and Ravens are no slouches in their own respective. Like, but like the Chiefs in the playoffs, what the fuck are you gonna do? Like that is so rough for the Jets. And I think I this should show you how high before the season I was on the Jets. The fact that they're number one in the regular season. I feel like if they weren't playing the Chiefs, I wouldn't have a hard time putting them up against the Texans or Ravens in like a close game. But Chiefs is so tough, man. Because I think that it's to me it's a foregone conclusion that the Chiefs are going to go far. That's not me saying anything about the Super Bowl quite yet. We'll get there. But I think it's a foregone conclusion that wild card divisional Chiefs aren't losing. That's not happening. At this point, they're sniffing it. They know that it's possible. They're not losing that early. So I think, yeah. So for me, Chiefs beat Jets. I think Jets probably make it close. Hopefully. I wouldn't want a boring game there. That would just suck. So hopefully in that scenario, we see a close game between the Jets and Chiefs. Texans and Ravens is also a really tough game. When I was picking this, I kind of groaned because I was not looking forward to this one because it's a lose-lose no matter what. There's no picking it right. It's a 50-50. I'm going to say Texans. I'm going to give it to CJ Stroud. I think this Texans team is awesome. I think in that first week we saw that Diggs is maybe not as good as ever, but he's going to be very good for the Texans this year. So knowing that now and seeing exactly how high-powered this offense is, hell, Mixon had a great week too. I think.
Oh, he had a fantastic week. He was the reason they won that game.
Oh yeah, like it's
by and large. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and again, I'm fairly high on the Ravens. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna take the Texans here. I think that. I don't know. I've always. I don't always like being this optimistic on sophomore quarterbacks. I always try to give it a little bit more of like okay, you had a great rookie year, awesome. A lot of the training wheels are going to be taken off now. You are not a rookie anymore. Now you're actually playing for real in a weird sense, right? It's you played your rookie season, now it's the rest of your career. It's like that, right? In a weird sense, like you're no longer the newbie. I don't think that applies to CJ Stroud. I think that he's going to be just as good. And I think we saw that in week 1. He was terrific. I have him in fantasy. There's no bias in this at all. CJ Stroud, moving on.
I would say to that point too. I mean, like, I think that whole what you just said applies to probably every quarterback except CJ Stroud.
Yes.
When you have the best rookie season in the history of the NFL in terms of as a quarterback, there's no training wheels there. You're completely.
He's probably had the training wheels off since halfway through last season.
He absolutely has. Speaking of the Texans, I have your AFC Championship matchup as my divisional matchup.
Ooh.
That is Chiefs at Texans.
That would be a good divisional.
I don't know if this is previewing your pick at all, but I have essentially. I guess they didn't. It was Ravens-Texans last year. Basically, similar outcome, even though the Texans are a lot better than they were. Where the more experienced team comes in and beats them. This will, I think, be a lot closer. This will be a very good game. But I think that the Chiefs get the win in this one because, again, Mahomes has never... If the Chiefs lost in the divisional round, that would be the worst they've done with Mahomes as their starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, think about that.
Yeah,
every single year, they have at least made it to the conference championship. They lost.
And they're scary this year.
The Bengals one year, they lost to the Patriots. Yeah, and they look really good. They look even better than they did last year.
How the hell? We haven't even touched on this yet, but like, how the hell did they get Xavier Worthy? How the fuck did that happen? Like, who let that? The Bills let it happen, but who let that happen?
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. Like, you know what? Picking him last, I brought up fantasy a ton just because it's in the back of my mind now. But like, picking him last in fantasy with my last pick, is going to go down as my best move all year long, no matter what trades I make. I feel like, because he's gonna be so good for them. I think that watching him in that first week, I I don't know. When you're that quick, you don't even have to he was so good. I'm so high on him going into this week. So I think with they have their new. This is very high praise. This is very high praise. This is very high.
No,
praise.
they don't have their new Tyreek Hill.
They have their new
Cool your
Tyreek
jets.
Hill.
No, they don't. Cool your jets. Cool your jets.
Very high praise. Very high praise. Maybe a bit too much, but maybe
Simon's
just maybe they have
overreaction.
maybe they have their new Tyreek Hill. But that being said,
no, they.
I'm gonna hold off to say anything more on this matchup because obviously it's my AFC Conference Championship.
Okay.
We'll get a chance to touch on it. So.
Yep. I'll move on to my other divisional, which is Dolphins at Bengals, and I had the Bengals as the number 1 seed. I'm really high on them. Now you may think, Caleb, you're an idiot. They just lost to the Patriots. They're they look awful. Joe Burrow has a broken wrist.
They did lose to the Patriots.
All of that. They did. It was not a good showing. They looked pretty awful. But I have a lot of faith in this Bengals team. I think with a healthy Joe Burrow, they are still one of the best teams in the AFC. We've seen it as the only team to kind of interrupt the Chiefs' run and go to the Super Bowl in their place, right? Since Mahomes has had this long run of dominance, either going to or winning the Super Bowl almost every year. The Bengals were the one to break that streak. There's a reason for that. They're a fantastic team. Are they potentially not as good as that Super Bowl team? Who knows? But I think it's close. They still have a lot of the same pieces, especially on offense, still having T. Higgins, still having Jamar Chase. I think even though losing Joe Mixon hurts, Zach Moss isn't a bad replacement. I think that defense is still pretty good. I love this Bengals team, and I think this is kind of their last year in this window. I see them absolutely taking advantage of it. I think the Dolphins would just be outmatched at this point. They're not playing at home anymore, which for them loses a huge advantage. This one, I think the Bengals could kind of run up the score on them a little bit. They're a much more complete team, in my opinion. Chiefs-Bengals is my AFC Championship pick.
Yeah.
Exactly the same as 2 years ago.
I have no issue with that, assuming... I think the big asterisk on the Bengals this year, and it's the big obvious one. We talked about it a lot this week. I already made a joke about it. But it's if Joe Burrow can stay healthy. Because that's the big thing, right? If he gets hurt, season's gone. I think... And that's... It's obvious. I don't feel like I should have to say that. I almost don't. But it's the elephant in the room with them. So I think in your imaginary world that you come up with here, he stays healthy. And in that situation, I have no issue with that pick. Bengals should be able to beat the Dolphins.
And that is what happens in my head. Yeah, no, they're not getting this far without Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I think the concerns at this point are a little bit overblown. People analyzing the video of him picking up a water bottle, it's stupid. Because yes, if he goes down, the season is over. But also, if any of these other quarterbacks go down, their season is over too.
My wrist is broken, guys. My wrist is broken. See how I didn't use my wrist? It must be broken. He picked it on. We don't need to get into this. This is the whole thing's dumb. But it's anyway. What are we now? NFC divisional? We're going into that.
Yep.
Okay. For me, I have number 1 Lions taking on number 6 Seahawks, which I think, when did we see that? Was that last year or the year before? We've seen that game.
We haven't. Not well. I mean, we've seen it the last couple years in the regular season. The last time we saw it in the playoffs was 2017.
Oh, I don't know what I'm talking about then. Never mind. For some reason I thought we'd seen that in the playoffs in the last 2 years, but I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And then after that, I have 49ers Packers. So 2 good games. Obviously, you're going to get 2 good games in the divisional. Maybe not to the same level as what we were seeing in the AFC, but I think they're both pretty good.
Yep, and I have, in my NFC, I have Eagles at Lions. Again, is that still right? Let me fact check myself here. My Eagles are my 3 seed. My Packers are my 4 seed. No, scratch that. Scratch that. Eagles at Niners, Packers at
Ooh.
Lions. Yes. That's what it,
Ooh. That is a fun
that's much better.
divisional.
That's much better. That's much better.
That is much
See, I know
better.
what I'm doing. So the stupid website messing it up and putting the Niners as my number 1 seed even when they aren't messes me up. But no, these are my matchups. Eagles at Niners, Packers at Lions. Gotta be honest,
Ooh.
whether the matchup changes or not doesn't really affect my predictions. So
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's a ton of fun. But anyway, Lions Seahawks as the first one. This is where the gravy train ends for the Seahawks. Sadly, this is where it ends.
no,
It's over. It's over. R.I.P. Seahawks. See you next year. They had a good run. I'm not saying it won't be close, but I'm saying it won't be that close. Lions are probably. I feel like the Lions at this point are quite a bit above the Seahawks. I mean, in this world, they go number 1. They are the number 1 team in the NFC, which I believe has them at a record of 13-4 in this. If my memory, oh fuck, I don't know what I just did. Anyway, 13-4. So in this thing, they have an insane year. Go against the Seahawks, who already upset one team. They upset the Eagles. I don't think they do it again. I think that the picking the Seahawks over the Eagles already feels somewhat nuts, despite what you had to argue against it. Lions Seahawks. I can't do it, man. Lions win that one. I think this year they have to make a run at it. They have to do something crazy. Like I think that this is going to be a really good year for them.
and I mean, I don't disagree with you. I will bring up the fact that in the last few matchups, the Seahawks have absolutely owned the Lions, including last year, in which the Lions went to the NFC Championship game. The Seahawks still beat the Lions in Detroit with a worse team. But that's why Seahawks homer isn't coming out. I'd still probably pick the Lions. But I don't think it's going to be like, I think these two teams are a lot closer than people think. I think when they play in the regular season, I'm still picking the Seahawks. But
that's fair. Regular season is not playoffs. That's the big
no, and I do think the Lions will win. I think at least in this matchup, I think it'll be close. I don't think you can disrespect the Seahawks, and if the Seahawks won that game, I'd be like, oh yeah, like that kind of has fit the pattern of the last few years of what's happened between these two teams.
But that would have the Seahawks going to the conference, which is even more insane.
That's what's happening in my head already, Simon. I have the Super Bowl tattoo booked.
Right. Anyway, the next game.
Kendrick Lamar in the halftime show. Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. It's my perfect.
It's your dream.
It's the wrong part of my shirt. It's my dream. There we go.
Okay, number 2 49ers. Number 5 Packers. This one's fun. This is where it gets a little silly. We're getting a little saucy now. Because one of these big teams, they can't go that far. We can't have all of the big. If I have a 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl again, I swear to God, it can't happen again. Not again, please. No more. We've gotten too much of it. And with all of that being said, 49ers Packers, Jordan Love masterclass. I got 49, or no, I have Packers. I don't know why I said I've got 49. I've got Packers. I think in this world, obviously the Packers are number 5, but I think they still had the second best record in the NFC according to my thing. I think the same thing happened in yours, just because of how good the Lions were, or how good we both have the Lions doing. And I think. I don't think that's an unrealistic prediction at all. Well, maybe now it changes knowing that they're losing Jordan Love for 3 or 4 weeks. That certainly puts a damper on that incredible regular season record that we both have them doing. But that being said, I still think in a game like this, it would have to be close. It would have to be an insanely good game. But it's an upset win here. I'm not necessarily to go, okay, this stat is why I think the Packers are going to beat the 49ers. It's an upset. They shouldn't beat the 49ers. In this bracket, they're beating the 49ers. Suck it, 49ers fans. You lost to the Packers. I don't know why that's not that embarrassing. That's not that embarrassing.
No,
but
it's
losing
not.
in the divisional would be brutal for the 49ers. especially considering
It would be, and I think that would end their streak. I think that would end, not end their championship window, but put a pretty huge pin in it.
they're gonna be worse next year,
especially with the contracts that are due. Yeah, this isn't that far fetched. The Packers almost beat them last year. I think they'll be better this year. I don't think it's that far of a stretch. I think honestly that's all I have to say about it. I'm fully on board.
Yeah.
Which we can transition over to my
this,
predictions.
Makes a Lions Packers NFC Conference Championship.
Yes.
That would be so much fun.
Would be very interesting.
Yeah,
that would be very fun.
That would be very fun. I think both of these conference championships for me, because it's Texans, Chiefs, Lions, Packers. That is great. Yeah. That would be some great football.
I am a buzzkill and I hate fun, so I have Packers Lions in the divisional round instead.
Right. Yes.
Speaking of Packers Lions divisional round, so again, I have the exact same thing happening where the Packers have a very good record, but because the Lions win the division, they come second. This is the reason that I have the Packers coming behind the Lions in terms of standings was because they lose both head-to-head games with Detroit. And that happens again here in my divisional round. I see the Lions winning. I think the Lions are just the more well-rounded team at this point as a whole. Again, I really like some of the additions they've made, namely DJ Reader in the middle, I think is my favorite that I talked about on the pod last week. I just think they're a bit more complete team, and playing this at home. Like, if this is played at Lambeau, I might have different thoughts about this. But I think in Ford Field with the Detroit crowd, with the Lions having a bit more playoff experience, having made it to the NFC Championship game last year. I think Lions come out on top, but that will be a fantastic game, and it'll certainly be close.
Right.
I think people will go into that game and say, like, okay, whoever wins this game has a pretty good chance of making it all the way. Eagles-Niners, this is the Eagles are kind of the black sheep of this grouping, honestly. In San Francisco, I don't think that... when you look at the Packers, Lions, Niners, I think those are the class of the conference there. I think the Eagles kind of stand out. I see you grimacing.
But it's like, if they're the black sheep, it's like the first three and then the Eagles. It's not that far. Calling them a black sheep feels...
I don't know. I think it might be that far. I think that, I think the Eagles are not quite as good as all the other teams. I think there's a decent step down between these three teams and the Eagles, which just goes to say I think the Niners beat them in San Francisco. I don't think it's like the most close game ever. Maybe the Eagles put up a fight, but I think the Niners take this one. They're not going to have the benefit of Brock Purdy having his arm torn off in the middle of the game like they did last time.
God, I have the Seahawks going.
Niners Lions repeat in the NFC Championship for me.
Right. I have the Seahawks going further, and you have the 49ers going to the conference. What world are we living in? This is like some bizarro bullshit that we're seeing going on here. But anyway, AFC Conference Championship. Well, we'll start there. Now we're down to just one game every side. So now we're into the fun stuff. We're done going through the whole herd of picks. We've thinned down the herd. AFC Conference Championship, Texans Chiefs. Like I said, we'd get back to it because you picked it. You had the Chiefs winning it. I do not disagree with you. I feel like this would be a very, very good game. I'm super high on the Texans this year. I think they're going to be incredible. How could you not pick Mahomes, man? Like, after everything we've learned, we thought that they were going to be bad last year. Mahomes had one of, if not the worst regular season he has ever had in his career, and had the worst wide receiver room. Travis Kelce was declining, and they still won the Super Bowl. This year they look better. They look a lot better. So I can't have them not going to the Super Bowl, man. I don't know how you couldn't. It'd just be anything otherwise would be an absolutely asinine pick, in my opinion. I think they just need to... They're going to go there. They're going to go to the Super Bowl. It's going to happen.
I'm about to make an absolutely asinine
Let's fucking do
so
it.
you have the Chiefs going. That's fair. I don't quite see it the same way. I have Chiefs at Bengals. So obviously I still have them getting there. Obviously this is going to be a great game, as all Chiefs Bengals games have been. But if I think if this Bengals team is the team I think it's going to be, where it is rivaling the team that made it to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, I think that the Bengals have this one. Has there been any team that has been the Chiefs' kryptonite quite like the Bengals? The Bengals have had the Chiefs' number more than any other team. They've been able to consistently beat the Chiefs on a level that we haven't seen. They're the only team that stopped that run, right? I think it happens here again. The only reason they didn't do it last time they played them in the AFC Championship game was because of just a stupid, not the call wasn't stupid, but the fact that they got a roughing on Mahomes out of bounds that put him into field goal range. Otherwise, that's a really close game. I don't think it's a crazy pick at all to say that if this Bengals team stays healthy and is the team I think it'll be, they can absolutely take out the Chiefs. They've done it before, and I see them doing it again. I think three-peating in the NFL, there's a reason it's never been done before. This league is so hard, and even though the Chiefs are better, they're going to have bad days. So I have Bengals over Chiefs. It's going to be a classic, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I disagree with you fully, but sure. Yeah, no, it would. I agree that it would be a classic. If the Bengals beat the Chiefs in the conference, that would be, yeah, it would be a classic. That's so messy. That's so messy and sad. It's not poetic at all, right? Like, the reason I love the Chiefs going back, like it sucks in the perspective of,
okay.
I love it because of the story. Because it's
a stupid story.
It's brutal if you lose in the conference. If they go all the way to the Super Bowl, it is either all out glory or the absolute worst loss that anybody since probably like I think like Falcons
Seahawks in Super Bowl 49.
Yes, like think of stuff like that. Like it could be a close game and they'll lose and it would be devastating. It would be probably one of the saddest losses for the Chiefs as a fan base, regardless of how absolutely lucky they have been in the last few years. That would be devastating. It would be insane. It's either they go all out, accomplish it all, or they lose it all in the last game, and I love that. I think that
I guess.
Yeah, I think that just like, because that's going to be the thing that people are talking about when going into a Super Bowl. I mean, we'll talk about who they're playing in the Super Bowl in mind, but I think going into this Super Bowl, people are going, this is either going to be the best or worst summer of every Chiefs fan's life.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily how people are going. I think people will go, my God, the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl again. I don't care. Like, I think
that too. But it's
like I don't know. That's why I think it's a.
Are you telling me you don't think the idea of being the first team to three-peat ever is interesting? You don't think that's interesting at all?
Yes, I think that's all interesting. Like, I give you that. I see your case for it more than I did a minute ago, but I still think them getting kicked out in the conference championships is a lot more intriguing to me. A, it's a lot more shocking.
Yes,
B,
absolutely.
it just adds novelty to the Super Bowl. And C, I just think from a Bengals perspective, after having this atrocious season, after having Joe Burrow get injured, having them struggle like they did, to come back to their former heights in probably the last season that like a lot of players are going to be there, like T. Higgins is namely the one that comes to mind. I think that's super poetic for them to go out there and beat the Chiefs again, to formally state like we're back to where we were last season was an aberration, we're back. Like to pronounce that on the biggest stage, I think that would be very cool. I'd like that a lot more than the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again.
I don't know.
I see your point. I see your point.
You know what's funny? This is a conversation I had with my dad a long time ago. Me and my dad disagree on a lot when it comes to football, because he's a big he's. This should show you all you need to know about his following of football. He's a 49ers and Patriots fan. He doesn't follow it enough to like actually like, but when either of them are playing, he's cheering for them. You know what I mean? Like he's a very casual football fan. But the one thing that I remember, like, I remember before the last Tom Brady Super Bowl we saw, I was pissed off because I was like, oh, fucking Tom Brady in the Super Bowl again. Terrific. And the one thing that I remember him saying, and people say this all the time, but the more, I think more now, it like really, it stuck with me a little bit because I remember him saying that you gotta appreciate greatness while it's here. Like, even if you hate it, because at some point it's going to be gone. And you're going to sit there going, I got to watch that game. And I think if the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl this year, no matter if they win or if they lose, you will be able to say that you watched that game. And that is going to be that's going to be worth a lot. I think that's going to be one of the big, I know Chiefs in the Super Bowl sucks, but holy shit, that'd be one of the biggest Super Bowls in a long time. We'll talk about who they're going to be taking on here if we want to move over to NFC Conference Championship. We've talked about the AFC Conference Championship for a while. I have Lions Packers. Who do you have again? I don't have your.
I have Niners at Lions.
Right. Okay. So we both have Lions. Main difference: 49ers and Packers. So this is fun. This is a fun matchup. Lions, Packers, obviously two division rivals, two best records in the NFC, two absolutely incredible teams, both having incredible seasons. Obviously, with Jordan Love's injury, the chances of the Packers being the second best record in the NFC, that goes down now. But in this world, that didn't happen. We made these picks 2 or 3 months ago. So you got to work with me. Just picture that, okay? No Jordan Love injury. Best two teams in the NFC. If it just makes sense. You're going into this matchup going, yes. I know it's 1v5, but it doesn't feel like it. It's not really. It's 1 versus 2. 1 versus 1. These are the two best going into a matchup with the chance to play the team that is going to be trying to three-peat. This is the NFL's last chance to stop Patrick Mahomes from doing one of the greatest accomplishments we have ever seen in NFL history. And in this scenario, and I'm sure people would be pissed about it because you want the best team winning it, I have an upset. I've got Packers beating the Lions. And I think it would be such a good game. I think it'd be a classic. I think it'd be a one-score game. If it goes to OT, it would just be that much more of a classic. I think it'd be so close. But at the end of the day, especially if it's overtime, I feel like you got to take the better quarterback. And Lions fans, you're going to hate me. I like Jordan Love more than I like Jared Goff. So I think with that being said, Jordan Love and the Packers go into the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. It'll be fun. It would be fun.
Nope.
That's my prediction.
And I mean, I saw your vision come into my head more when I realized this was probably who we were going to pick. Rematch of the first Super Bowl. Like it's a good matchup. I'll give you that. I already gave my opinion on what Lions Packers would be like. Obviously, I had the Lions winning that game in the divisional for me. So I'll flip it just over to mine. A rematch of the NFC Championship game last year. Obviously, very close. Again, like I've said before, they were a stupid bounce off of whoever that was his helmet into the hands of Brandon Ayuk away from beating the Niners in that game. They dominated a lot of the first half, kind of fell apart in the second. I think the Lions will have learned from their mistakes. I think the Niners are slightly worse. I think the Lions are slightly better. Still be a very good game. But honestly, the biggest difference between last year and this year in this scenario is that the Lions have home field. And playing at Ford Field with this rabbit of a fan base behind them that hasn't seen this kind of success in so long, I think that does a lot for your team. Like, I think that's a big thing. I don't think I'm overrating the home field advantage at this point. I think that's huge. Playing that in front of their home crowd, I don't think they're going to be beat by the Niners. I think in this rematch, they come out and win. So that leaves my Super Bowl. I would love this Super Bowl. Two of my pet teams when the Seahawks aren't doing well. Lions, Bengals. Lions, Bengals is my Super Bowl. That's who's going to New Orleans for me.
Okay. Well, here we are. The final game.
Yep.
2.5 months. I think 2.5. 2.5, 3 months. Yep. About 9. This is episode 9. Because yes, this is episode 9. We have had to sit here for 9 hours almost. Because I think every single, maybe not that much actually. There's a few that aren't an hour, but close to, you know what? Round down, 8 hours. 8 hours of work leading into this Super Bowl. I've got Packers Chiefs. You have Lions Bengals. Both are very both would be really, really good. I think that's safe to say. They're both obviously two incredible teams. Do you want to go first or am I going first here? I don't know how we want to do this. Because I've gone first for the entire thing. If you want to take it, I will
start. I can take it.
I'll give it to you. Okay.
So I have Lions Bengals, and I think this is really tough because I think this is very much a matchup of the two kind of under the radar teams over the past 5 years or so. Both were historically bad or underachieving for a long time. Obviously, both teams have never won a Super Bowl. That's a big thing here, is that whichever team wins, it'll be their first Super Bowl ever. I think going into this, I look at this as A, a very close game, B, a very exciting game. Obviously, Bengals have the edge at quarterback. Lions, I think, have the more complete roster, the better defense, better coaching. But obviously, like with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, like that also adds an element to it. The AFC is a tougher conference to get through. The Bengals have more playoff experience. I think it's going to be a real toss-up. But I think that in the end, I think having been to a Super Bowl before and having the experience of losing a Super Bowl, that does something to you. And I think the Bengals will be motivated from last season. I think they will have a lot under their belt. They beat the Chiefs in this scenario. So to come in and beat an upstart Lions team is absolutely within their grasp. I think in the last year of this window, the Lions will be back. The Lions will be back after this season. No matter what happens to them, they will be fine. They're going to be back in this conversation for the next 2, 3, 4 years, however long, with how well this roster is built. The Bengals, I have questions past this year, but I would be, maybe this is just my own wish binding, but I would be shocked to see this roster go without a Super Bowl in this current iteration of it. So I have the Bengals coming out on top. And I honestly think, in my mind, if I'm to give more specifics, I worry about Dan Campbell's aggressiveness in a big game. That kind of beat him against the Niners. I could see it beating him here. Whether he kind of tries to go for it a little bit too much and kind of gets shocked by the moment. I could see that happening. But the biggest thing, I think, is just the playoff experience and the better quarterback. I think in Super Bowls that wins out a lot of the time. And even though I think the Lions are the more complete team generally, the Bengals are certainly no slouches on the defensive side of the ball either. I see them coming out on top. This pick may have taken a hit after week 1, but again, the Bengals are just historically bad week 1 in general, so that still doesn't scare me off that much. Did I pick the Bengals to win the Super Bowl last year? Perhaps.
Yeah.
But we don't think about that. We're running it back, and I have the Bengals winning Super Bowl 59.
You shouldn't have brought that up because I completely forgot. I wasn't even thinking about that. Yeah. Holy. I mean, honestly, if we had actually been able to finish this series in time before week 1, I don't think that'd be that crazy of a pick. Which, with that being said, I'm looking at it like that. I'm looking at it from that perspective. I don't think it's that crazy. I will say I don't